Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into something huge, mastering English. And we're not just talking grammar drills here, right? The sources you sent over point towards something more holistic, like really living the language. So our mission today is basically to sift through all that and give you a real roadmap to, speaking confidently.
Exactly. And what's really cool about the material is how it pushes past that old textbook stuff.
Mm.
It offers these practical, sometimes surprising ways to just weave English into your day. So yeah, this deep dive is all about laying out those strategies for like real lasting improvement.
Okay, great. So where do we start? Let's unpack the listening part first, because it's more than just hearing words, isn't it? It's about getting the context, the feeling behind it all. How do the sources say we can, level up our listening, go beyond just the basics?
Right. So the recommendations get pretty specific for advanced listening. They talk a lot about podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you use. But the key thing is finding topics you actually care about. Tech, history, motivation, even podcasts about learning English.
Okay, so engaging topics makes sense. What else?
Documentaries, too. Especially things from, say, National Geographic or BBC Earth. The language there tends to be a bit more formal,
Right.
which is fantastic for building vocabulary and understanding more complex sentences.
Ah, good point. And there was something else mentioned, something learners often avoid. Subtitles.
Yes. Listening without subtitles, it sounds scary, I know. But the sources really hammer this home. It forces your brain to work harder.
How so?
Well, you have to rely on other things, like the speaker's tone, keywords that pop out, repetition. You start piecing it together differently. It really trains your comprehension muscles, so to speak.
Okay, I see the logic. Any, actionable tip to go with that?
Yeah, there's a great one. After you listen to something, maybe a podcast segment or short clip, try writing a quick summary, just a few sentences about what you understood. It's brilliant because it checks your listening and you practice your writing at the same time.
That's smart. Double duty. All right, so we're tuning our ears. What about absorbing the language through reading? The sources mentioned that too, right?
Absolutely. Reading is fundamental for getting a feel for grammar, sentence structure, how words are naturally used.
So how do we start? Just grab any English book.
Well, the sources suggest a more gradual approach. Maybe start with graded readers, those books written specifically for language learners. They control the vocabulary.
Right, keeps it manageable.
Exactly. Then move on to maybe short stories, articles on topics you genuinely like. Keep it interesting for yourself. And then, when you're ready, tackle English newspapers or blogs, The Guardian, BBC News, Medium, places like that.
Yeah, and the sources had this really practical tool for figuring out if something's too hard, didn't they?
Oh yeah, the 5-finger rule. I love this one. It's so simple.
Explain that.
Okay, so you open a page of whatever you're trying to read. If you count more than 5 words on that one page that you don't know.
Then it's probably too difficult for now.
Exactly. It's just immediate feedback. Helps you pick stuff that stretches you just enough without being, totally overwhelming and discouraging.
Keeps you motivated. Nice. Okay, listening, reading, that's taking information in. What about putting it out there? Actually sounding, more natural when you speak.
Now we're getting into the really interesting stuff. This is where sounding fluent, not just correct, comes in. The sources focus a lot on 2 key things: collocations and phrasal verbs.
Right, collocations.
Yeah.
Those are words that just naturally hang out together.
Precisely. Like you make a decision, you don't really do a decision, or heavy rain, not strong rain. They're fixed pairs, and using them correctly makes a huge difference in sounding natural. It's something native speakers do without thinking.
Okay, and phrasal verbs, those can be tricky.
They really can, because often the meaning isn't literal. Like, give up doesn't mean you're handing something over. It means you stop trying. The sources suggest things like the English collocations in use books, or even just apps or YouTube channels that focus specifically on phrasal verbs.
And they had a challenge related to this.
Yeah, a practical one. Try to consciously use maybe 1 or 2 new collocations or phrasal verbs in your own sentences each day. Active practice.
Makes sense. Which brings us to actually talking to people. Interaction. It's got to be key. Where do the sources suggest finding native speakers to practice with?
Loads of options, actually. There are language exchange apps. Tandem, HelloTalk, Speaky are popular ones. You find someone learning your language and you teach each other.
Kind of a swap.
Exactly. Or if you want something more structured, you can hire a tutor. Platforms like italki, Preply, Cambly, lots of choices there for one-on-one lessons. And don't forget online conversation clubs, Facebook groups, Meetup, Reddit sometimes, places where people just get together online to chat in English.
That sounds less intimidating, maybe. But speaking,
Yeah.
there's always that fear, isn't there? The fear of messing up. Do the sources address that?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge point they make. The advice is clear. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Seriously. Fluency doesn't come from being perfect from day one. It comes from trying, stumbling, learning from it, and trying again. Real practice.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, basically.
That's a good way to put it. The more you speak, mistakes and all, the more natural it becomes.
Okay. Beyond just the words, though, what about sounding more like a native speaker? The rhythm, the intonation, the sources had a specific technique for that, right? Shadowing.
Yes, shadowing is a really powerful technique. You take a short audio or video clip, something with clear speech. You listen, and then you immediately repeat what you hear, trying to mimic everything.
Everything, like the pauses, the ups and downs.
Exactly. The tone, the rhythm, the speed, the pronunciation. You're basically trying to become the speaker's echo. The why behind it is fascinating. It trains your mouth and your brain to produce the sounds and patterns of native English speech.
Kind of rewiring your speech patterns.
Sort of, yeah. And this connects to something broader the sources mention: culture.
Ah, right. Language and culture being intertwined.
Totally.
Yeah.
Understanding English fully often means understanding the culture behind it. So they suggest things like watching English movies, not just for language practice, but for cultural context, learning about traditions, maybe even trying to understand English humor or idioms.
Follow influencers, too.
Yeah, following English-speaking creators or vloggers. It gives you a window into everyday language use and current culture. The more cultural context you have, the easier the language often becomes. It just clicks better.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what if someone wants a really concrete goal, something formal to aim for?
For those who like having a target, the sources mention language tests. Optional, of course, but useful for some. You've got IELTS academic or general, often needed for study or work abroad. TOEFL is another big one, mainly for university in the US. And there's the Duolingo English test, too. It's online, quicker, and getting recognized more and more.
And studying for those forces you to practice everything, right? Reading, writing.
Exactly. It gives your learning structure and pushes you to sharpen all 4 key skills. It's a good motivator if that's your style.
But whether you take a test or not, the real challenge is sticking with it long term. Avoiding burnout. How do the sources suggest we maintain momentum?
Consistency is the word they use over and over. It's the bedrock. They suggest creating a simple weekly learning plan. Doesn't have to be complicated, like the example they gave. Monday, watch a video, write a summary. Tuesday, learn 10 new words, make sentences. Wednesday, speaking practice or shadowing. Thursday, read an article. Friday, review.
So bite-sized chunks, regularly.
Precisely. Even just 20, 30 minutes a day, done consistently, adds up massively over time. It's way better than cramming for hours once a week. And another key thing for momentum: inspiration.
Know what I mean?
Follow the journeys of other people who've learned English successfully. Read their blogs, watch their YouTube channels, join forums. Seeing how others tackle the same struggles you're facing can be incredibly motivating. It reminds you it's possible.
Yeah, community and seeing success stories. That's powerful. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground: listening, reading, speaking, shadowing, culture, goals, consistency. What's the big picture message here, the mindset someone needs for this whole journey?
I think the most important thing coming from these sources is about mindset, really. It boils down to patience and being kind to yourself. Language learning just isn't instant. You will have days where you struggle. That's completely normal. It's okay.
So don't beat yourself up.
Definitely not. And crucially, don't compare your progress to someone else's journey. Everyone learns differently at a different pace. Instead, the advice is to celebrate the small wins.
Like what?
Like finally understanding a phrase you've heard a million times, or getting through a short conversation, or watching 5 minutes of a movie without subtitles and actually following it. Acknowledge those moments. They're real progress. Every little step counts.
Right. So wrapping this deep dive up, the core takeaway seems to be that mastering English isn't like flipping a switch. It's a journey, and it's built on doing lots of different things consistently and actually trying to immerse yourself in it, making it part of your life.
That's it, exactly. The strategies aren't just about being effective, they're also about making it enjoyable and sustainable. And maybe the best final thought comes straight from the sources, something that applies to learning anything, really. Every expert was once a beginner.
Simple but true.
Yeah. So keep going. Embrace the messiness of learning, celebrate how far you've come, and just keep diving deeper into the language and its amazing culture.